Oh, there's a Swift. Damn it, I'm going because there's a RAV4. So SUVs, sports utility vehicles. I don't like them. They're big, heavy, lanky, slow, and most of the time they don't actually do what they're advertised to do, which is to go off-road. Boy, Alfred, he's driving on the line. Now, my worst experience in a motor vehicle was while driving an SUV. I've only driven a handful of them, but that particular SUV was a 1995-ish Jeep Grand Cherokee. I don't know what the generation is, JL, WL or something. But my god, that was a terrible experience. The only redeeming feature, maybe it's not even redeeming at all, is that the seats were like sitting in a big old plush sofa. They were leather seats, but just driving the vehicle, I actually thought I was going to crash while crossing the Auckland Harbour Bridge with a slight headwind, or crosswind. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up SUVs is because the new Nissan Skyline is teased to be becoming an SUV. Now, all of those purist fans, I'm not even sure if you can call them purists, because they just look at Skyline GTRs and go, it's a coupe, that's what they are. But historically, the first Skyline was an inline-4 sedan, the second Skyline was an inline-4 sedan, the third Skyline was an inline-6 sedan. Only after they were acquired by Nissan Motor Company from Prince did they make the GTR, the Hakosuka. Which is what everybody lusts over, but that was short-lived because there were only 2 generations before the GTR was dropped, having beaten the Isuzu Ballot in the Japanese champion touring race, Grand Champion I think it was. So back to the SUV Skyline, a lot of people are losing their minds, but the thing is, Nissan already tried an SUV back in 2008, the Nissan Skyline crossover. Now that was only sold in Japan, and judging by the sales there, it wasn't wanted in Japan. Possibly because of their strict registration rules, where they prefer to have smaller cars like the Suzuki Swift in front, or even smaller than that, like the Suzuki Ignis, and even the Jimny. Both of those are key cars in Japan and are 1 litre over here. So that's nothing new, but then the other thing is that the Toyota Century, which has always been a big luxury sedan, is also becoming an SUV. Possibly even an e-SUV. Now with electric cars, my opinion is that they should have been luxury cars way back in the early 2000s. They should have just knocked them out of, you know, the whole Chinese economy small car sort of mentality, or market I should say. Because basically if you look at something like the 8 Series BMW, the 7 Series, those had the big V12s or V10s, I think they're V12s, and they're not designed to be sports cars, they're designed to be luxury cars. The reason why they use so many cylinders is because how smooth they are, and they also provide a lot of torque. Smooth torque. Now those are both features of electric vehicles, electric motors. And like, who is Mr. MX-5 here, just because one drives from house, to complain about an EV luxury car? Like, you're not going to buy one if you're in the market for an MX-5. And then on to the other thing, which is how it's an SUV. Well, business people are the people who are buying them in Japan, and business people pretty much just buy whatever's European or trending in Europe. Now this includes the Yakuza, because everybody goes centric Yakuza, but it's not true. I was over there and it's more like Mercedes Yakuza. Well, anyway, if you look at all the new Mercedes, new BMWs, like a lot of them are SUVs, and sedans and hatches are getting phased out of the market because of market demand in Europe and the USA. Japan wasn't really big on SUVs, but the Century isn't a vehicle for the ordinary person, it's a vehicle for the CEO of large companies. Which pretty much suits that whole I have to show off my wealth and my position. So I wasn't on board with it from the beginning, but Mr. Duck convinced me somewhat. I was more convinced that it should be an EV rather than an SUV, but oh well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Okay, and now back here where I live, we've got this green card tax underway. The government, the election ends today, and I think the leading party has vowed to remove the green tax. I think it's just an empty promise. It would be good for me, but I am doubtful. And something that they've always pushed, which the government has always said about like ownership of vehicles in New Zealand, is that people own more than one vehicle, therefore you are polluting more. So if the average person in New Zealand owns 5 cars, doesn't mean that you're actually polluting more. I own 4 vehicles, and the thing is I only drive one at a time. I'm currently on this motorbike, which doesn't even get a rebate, and it's a very, very low emitter. If we look at the mileage it's getting, I'm not going to hit the button now, but on the dashboard it would usually say about 18 kilometers per litre, which is about 4 litres per 100 kilometers, which is very low. I also looked at buying a CRZ to replace the Corolla, but once I heard of the real world figures only being around 4.5 litres per 100 k's, it didn't really make sense to me when my Corolla was getting 5.5. So would you really sell the Corolla for 5 grand and spend twice as much to get a hybrid just to get slightly better fuel economy? Oh, this person must, yeah, oh, they probably work there. They've got a voting ballot in the back of the car. What a coincidence. Oh, school zone. Hit the brakes. So anyway, back to the argument. So owning more vehicles isn't actually bad. And in fact, I recently saw a video which was part of a spam post on a random group. And in that video, they showed a Cherry, I think it's a J6, it was a sedan, being wrecked in China. So it wasn't a wreckers where you get parts from, it's just disposal of the vehicle, end of life. And basically there was this crane arm that was going down, and the first thing it did was probably like crush the roof or something, or pull off the roof, and then the arm pulls out the seats and then puts them into one pile, pulls out the dashboard, puts in another pile, pulls off the bonnet, flings it away, pulls out the engine, puts it into another pile, and continues to do that with all the major components of the car that a crane grappling arm can hook onto. And what I took away from this video is that there were massive piles of junk left from this one car. Well, not from this one car, but from recycling many vehicles. And I know that places in Asia, I'm not going to say which, have a mentality which is that you have to replace your car every 5 years and buy a new one to keep up with appearances. And what happens to the old cars is they end up like that Cherry did. Just watch out for this. If it's good, hoping he doesn't do a U-turn and whack me off my bike. So when you look at it like that, you've got, let's say, a 25-year span, just because it's 5 vehicles. So over that period, you've got 5 vehicles that one person has consumed and thrown away into the garbage. Meanwhile, if you have a person like me and a lot of my viewers and friends, which seem to buy many vehicles and keep them alive as long as possible, like, there's definitely less waste than that. Like, it's just crazy less, because basically someone who owns a Ford Escort, for example, will see another Ford Escort going to the wreckers, and they're not like, that's okay, it's just going to get torn to pieces and put into different piles and put into landfill like that Cherry in China. They're going to look at it and be like, I want those seats, I want that engine, I want those carburetors, I want the suspension. So they're going to be pulling out whatever parts they want from it, and because of that it becomes profitable, and people don't actually send their vehicles to landfill until they're almost a bare shell. And even then, being a Ford Ford Escort, it would be rusty, so you'd want things like the A and C pillars, which will get cut out of the donor vehicle. And over time, these enthusiast cars, which people actually want, these classic cars, reduce the amount of waste, because all you're really getting is like the floorboards and chassis rails, which are getting sent to the, what's the word, the rubbish dump. Meanwhile, if you've got a vehicle that's just an appliance, which is what a lot of people are buying these days. Like, look at this thing in front of Hyundai. What's this? iX35. I don't even know what that is. Is that the precursor to the Sonata? No, not Sonata. That would be replacing the Sonata and going in before the Sorrento. Like, that's not going to be a classic car. At least I don't see it becoming one. It doesn't have anything that people want. Like, it's front wheel drive, so it's not good. You can't offer it at all. City tyres, it's a big thing, very heavy, with surprisingly little interior space, as I've seen with the Sorrentos. And like, vehicles these days are just going to end up like those weird Mustangs you got in the 70s, the Mustang 2, that people don't really want. They're just like, I'll buy that because it's an old quirky car. End up on Doug DeMuro show. So anyway, the whole point of green tax is because if you look at New Zealand's fleet, then a lot of vehicles are old. Now this is a bad example here because I'm in a wealthy beach neighbourhood, and all those vehicles are fairly new except for this RAV4. So that is what I was getting at earlier about how daft it is trying to change everything. But if you are replacing the entire fleet with commodities, not commodities, sorry, I've been into economics recently. If you're replacing the entire fleet with consumable vehicles, appliances, then it's just going to be worse overall. If you're replacing all those appliances with hybrids and electric vehicles, then at first that'd be good, but what happens to them once they break down? Over time, I should say. Damn, I should say a lot. So recycling them and disposal of them is just going to be horrendous. Now, I'm not a sort of person who's just going to be like, boo, electric cars, don't buy them, I hate them. I actually quite like them. But the way that I see them working is like, you'd have to own 2 vehicles per family, because you technically should be doing what the Chinese are doing, which is to have a small city vehicle for getting to work and commuting, and then having the larger getaway vehicle like this Land Rover Discovery in front with a big long range and a massive tank, and maybe even some off-road capability for when you're going to the batch or the beach house and you need to drive on some sand or gravel once in a while. So won't they make more sense, rather than everybody just buying appliances because they want everything to be all in one? Now, I'm not the Transport Minister of New Zealand, but there would be a few changes I would make, such as that if I were in that position. Well, he's not even going to the beach, he's just going to a suburb full of beach houses. So if you ask me, that's really wasteful, and imagine all that metal and plastic that will end up in landfill after. So that's just about it for this video. Look at this BRZ owner. But look at this Nissan Note owner in front. Now there is a Note hybrid that a lot of people like, especially the Nismo one. But I'm just going to pull up here at Mount Mania, which is this big rock on top of the mountain here. I'm not going to climb it today. I used to, but I'm in my motorbike gear. I tried climbing another rock across town and that was just hideous as well. Yeah, so that's it for this video. I covered the SUVs, the new vehicles, and the green tax. Oh.